It was very difficult to do my job. I would dread, I wake up in the morning looking forward to if I could take a nap. It was just really hard to get through any day with any kind of, clarity or feeling good about it. It always felt like drudgery. The only thing I ever thought about food was just calories. I never thought that food could really impact the way that you feel or the way that you function at all. I had thyroid issues, and that was maybe some of my low energy. But I just drank more and more and more coffee to try and feel normal and try to get through my day. At the same time, I was also starving myself so that I wouldn't get fat. When I went carnivore and my own health improved so much and my mental health improved.
If you've been watching, you know that I take my ingredients very seriously, but there are 3 companies that I have found that I absolutely love. Check the description for discount codes.
Hello, welcome to my show. My name is Adrian, and this is a series where I interview different people who've inspired me to live a healthier life. And today is one of those people. It's my friend Cristie from Meeting Wellness. And this is going to be such a fun conversation because Cristie and I work together all the time. What we're going to go into is that eating a primal meat based diet is so much more than losing weight. It's so much more than that. And Cristie is proof. So I'm so excited to have her today. Cristie, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Adrian. This conversation has been a long time coming, but I'm really excited to finally sit down and chat with you.
Well, I'm wondering if we can go into like what was life before you came into this way of eating and how did you get here?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know how far you want me to go back, but we'll just say that I had gotten to the point that it was basically just kind of trying to survive the day, right? Like, and by the day, I mean the teaching day because I'm a teacher. This is my 25th year. And I just had to put one foot in front of the other. I felt so brain foggy all the time. It was very difficult to do my job. I would dread, I wake up in the morning looking forward to if I could take a nap, dread on the days when I had to go into the classroom just because everything seemed so exhausting. And it was just really hard to get through any day with any kind of, clarity or feeling good about it. It always felt like drudgery. And I just chalk that up to, well, I'm just older now, right? Like getting into my 30s. I'm just older now and I have 2 kids now. And that's why I feel this way all the time. I didn't know anybody who was eating anywhere close to this way at the time. And the only thing I ever thought about food was just calories. It was just a matter of calories to me. That's all. I never thought about nutrition. I never thought that food could really impact the way that you feel or the way that you function at all. I just thought it either made you fat or didn't. And so, I just was getting more and more tired. I have never liked to go to doctors. But I'm pretty sure I had thyroid issues, and that was maybe some of my low energy. But I just drank more and more and more coffee to try and feel normal and try to get through my day. At the same time, I was also starving myself so that I wouldn't get fat. And so I had no energy from the food either because I would lower my calories to 6 to 800 calories a day on many days, to the point that when I stood up, I would feel dizzy and things like that. And I thought it was perfectly fine, the whole, eat 5 or 6 times. So I would eat like a couple bites, right? Like 5 or 6 times throughout the day to just try and not gain weight. Or if I had, binged, because then when you do that so long, you're so hungry that I would then binge and put on some weight and then, try to starve myself back down to where I would want to be. But what's funny is no matter how thin I got, I was never to where I wanted to be, right? Even when I got down to 112 pounds, I wasn't where I wanted to be. I still wanted to be thinner, right? And so, yeah, I did the whole binging and restricting thing since my teens, but it was really in my late 20s, 30s when I started having kids and stuff and all of that and obviously from doing all of that for so many years that the energy was just waning and waning and waning. And it was super hard to focus. And I really think that the only reason I was able to function as a teacher was just because I had been teaching for so many years that I could kind of do it on autopilot in a way. Just because I knew the curriculum, I was teaching the same grade level. Heaven forbid if they would have changed my grade level, and you don't really know what you're supposed to be teaching, what the kids are going to be like. You're not used to it. It's, that you got to up your game when you when you do that. but it was the same grade level I had taught for years. And so I could just go in there. Another thing that was happening to me during that time was I think that my social anxiety just sort of gradually crept up. And I've always kind of been an introvert. And, come to find out what that means is it doesn't mean I don't want to be around people. It means after I'm around people, sometimes I just might need some alone time to kind of recharge my batteries. But I thought, well, I'm an introvert and that's why I don't want to go to the grocery store. And that's why I don't want to go outside for walks. And that's why I turned down every social invitation. Or if I accepted a social invitation out of guilt, feeling bad if I said no, then I would later try to figure out a way to get out of it. And I would dread it for days ahead of time if I couldn't find a way to get out of it. And then I would try to leave early. Like if I went, I would definitely be out of there early, feeling uncomfortable the whole time and all of that. Come to find out, after starting my new way of eating, that a lot of those symptoms kind of went away too. So funny enough, I came to this way of eating in about February of 2023 because just of the whole weight loss thing. I had no idea about any of the other benefits. I had no idea that it could help my mental health, my energy, my sleep, my clarity, any of that. I had no idea. I just thought, well, here I have put on the same 20 pounds that I've gained and lost who knows how many times. And, let's try something new. Let's try keto, whatever that means. Like, I didn't really know what it meant. I didn't read a book. I didn't look it up. I was just like, okay, keto. And I kind of, I don't know, probably looked up a couple things. I don't even know what I looked up, but just, okay, high fat, a lot of fat bombs, like this stuff that you see on the internet. Some meat is okay and a little veg is okay. And that's the very first thing I knew about it. And so I started that. And I had done like some low carb before, but never knowing a number of carbs to keep it to, just like take out the grain, take out crackers, that kind of low carb. It's still, when I started keto, I didn't know what ketosis was or anything like that. It was just keto. It was just, just the name of that diet, right? To try to lose this weight. It's supposed to help people lose weight fast. And so, but what changed for me was it was actually because of what happened in 2020 when they sent us all home to teach online. And that's when I learned what a Facebook group is. Have not been big into social media ever. I think it's because I'm, 48 years old, and that's just not, we didn't grow up that way. Like, I didn't grow up in front of a computer. I didn't have my first cell phone until I was well into adulthood, and I didn't really care about social media. So I just didn't do it. But when we were all home teaching online with very few resources, we had to get creative, and other teachers were sharing their stuff, for free. And so I joined some Facebook groups. And so after I went keto, I thought, oh, maybe there's a Facebook group for this, because now I knew what they were. And so sure enough, there's, a ton of them. And I joined a couple, mostly for recipes. That's really what I was thinking. Like, I'll join, I'll get some recipes, some food ideas, that kind of thing. And in the comments, someone said something about Dr. Berry. Like, they weren't talking to me. I was just scrolling through the comments and I saw something about Dr. Berry. And that is what kicked off this whole new journey and way of eating for me, because I immediately said, well, who the heck is Dr. Berry? Went and looked him up on YouTube, which is another thing. I never watched YouTube ever, never, ever. But I'm like, okay, let me go look this guy up. And so I did, and quickly got, sucked right down that rabbit hole of just hearing all the benefits that he was talking about. And at this time, I didn't really know about carnivore. He was already carnivore by then, and he was making a lot of carnivore content, but his channel is so big and he has so many videos that I'm like, okay, let me just focus in here. And I found his keto playlist, and I just had his keto playlist up on my computer, and I would just go to that. So it's not like, some people say, oh, like I started watching Dr. Berry, then carnivore videos started popping up on my feed. Like, I didn't go to my feed. I just had his keto playlist up because there's like 100 and I don't even know, like over 100 videos in there. Right. So I was just doing that. I was just like binging through this keto playlist. And I was like, wow, like all these benefits. And I also learned about the correct macros. That's when I started tracking to keep my carbs under 20. I realized, okay, this is supposed to be mostly meat. Unfortunately, I hadn't really done it long enough. I hadn't purchased any of the keto products or anything. So I never did any of that. So I just did, mostly meat, kept my carbs to 20. Those carbs usually came from things like nuts, vegetables, and that kind of thing. Definitely whole foods. And I definitely lost 20 pounds, and I lost it within, that 3 months. But I was tracking, and when you track, I wasn't tracking to look at calories. And I know calories, measure of heat and all of that. But when you're tracking, you see the calories on the app, right? And so I could always see them. So I can tell you I was probably eating usually around 1,200 calories a day. And I think some of that is from my uh, you know, old way of thinking about eating and all of that. I was used to keeping my calories low. To me, 1,200 sounded like so many because whenever I was trying to restrict before, it was definitely under 1,000. So in my own head, I was like, whoa, this is like a lot of food. But yeah, the 20 pounds came off, but I still found myself craving things like the nuts, like the cheese, and those kind of things. And so my other cravings went away. Like I didn't want any sugary stuff anymore. I didn't want chips or ice cream or that kind of stuff. But I still found myself, making like the keto cheesecake fat bombs and that kind of stuff. And I'd have one and then that would turn into, six or whatever. Because those cravings, you take one, but they're in the fridge, right? And they're calling my name and that kind of thing. Or the nuts would call my name. Pecans were my thing from the cupboard. So I could never stop at an appropriate amount. And so, but time just kind of went on. I gradually, I think I kind of became ketovore. It was like, oh, wow, my carbs are kind of under 10 now. And like one day I heard him say something about ketovore and I was like, oh, that's kind of me. And I just kept gradually kind of kicking those vegetables and other things out until I was just eating meat on my plate. And I was like, I didn't really think about it too much right away, but then that's when I noticed my social anxiety, which I didn't even know I had. Like I said, I was just calling myself an introvert. All this stuff is just because I'm an introvert. I wouldn't have said I was having any kind of mental health issues. But all of a sudden, my son got invited to an amusement park by someone that I didn't know. And I was like, well, you can go if I can go. Wait, did those words just come out of my mouth? If I can go? What? Like, what am I saying? It didn't even occur to me to think twice about it. I didn't feel weird about it. Going to this amusement park with this other kid and her family, her parents that I've never met before ever, and spending a day with like thousands and thousands of people. It didn't even make me nervous. And I just thought, what is happening right now? And I started going outside for walks and all this kind of stuff, which I never would have done, and not feeling uncomfortable. And I kind of like was thinking, gosh, I wonder what this is about. And you know what? I'm only eating meat. Is this okay? And that's when I sort of broadened my search on Dr. Barry's channel. I was still just only on that channel. I hadn't found any of the other channels because I had, like I said, I just kind of been focused on that one playlist. And I'm like, oh, carnivore, that's like a thing. And I guess that's what I'm doing. And these mental health benefits are crazy. And oh my gosh, look at all this energy. And then I started finding other channels. Like I found, Two Crazy Ketos channel. And then I found this other doctor, Dr. Sean O'Mara, who talked about sprinting. And or he still talks about it. And so I started sprinting. And that was great because I had all this energy and I didn't know what to do with it. So I started sprinting and just getting more and more into this carnivore community after that, and finding people like you, Adrian, and our friend Ellie, and all the carnivore friends that we've met in this space, the carnivore teacher John, and carnivore soldier Larry, and just all these people, and creating this network because I wasn't afraid to talk to people anymore. Like I never would have reached out. I just started like talking in the chat of live streams and reaching out to people if they provided their email, and just kind of introducing myself to people like, who even am I right now? And so I started my YouTube channel, shortly after that, because I thought, I haven't lost a ton of weight. I don't have these crazy before and after pictures where people can see, but I think people should know that there's other benefits to this way of eating besides weight loss, like satiety, like no cravings at all, mental health benefits. My joints feel better. My sleep is better. My skin is better. So I guess that's how I came to this way of eating.
Now, if I understand correctly, this has affected more than just you and your family. Are there any other health conditions or anybody else in your family who's benefited from this way of eating?
Yeah, so I had been doing this for about a year if you include my keto, which I do. I was heavy meat keto, right? When I was keto, and it was only for a few months anyway, but I was doing it was the proper human diet, right? So about a year after that, my son, my younger son, I have two sons, and actually they both have been diagnosed with ADHD, but my younger son has struggled in some ways similarly to my older son, but in some ways much more severely, and then also, more struggles, not just academic struggles, but more struggles. And we threw everything at that. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Me being a teacher, that's a condition that, has really exploded in our society in recent years. And so I have taught many students with ADHD. They've given us some training and a book and all these things with strategies, right? And plus just practice, just dealing with, how to work with these kids and deal with when they have meltdowns and when they refuse to work and when they are wiggly and when they need a break and all of these things. And so we tried all of those strategies, obviously, plus we brought in multiple experts, the ones that you're supposed to bring in. We started with the school. We got him an IEP through speech because sometimes people with ADHD have trouble with pragmatics, which is knowing how to talk to people, how to take turns and not just monopolize a conversation, how to read body language and how to understand, okay, they're bored and they're just listening politely, like that kind of thing. And that was kind of a way to get like some other services that the school district offers, but they won't offer it without an IEP. So he definitely needed these speech services. He was tested for that. And then through that, we got him occupational therapy services to help work with some of those things. Now, I guess I should rewind a little bit. He was actually diagnosed first when he was in preschool, but this was privately. Like we paid out of pocket. My husband and I paid out of pocket for an occupational therapist because he was having meltdowns, extreme meltdowns on the floor, kicking, and they would have to physically pick him up and carry him to the office. And this was several times a week. And come to find out that he has sensory integration processing disorder in all five senses. So, when you're 3 years old and everything is loud and everything is bright and there's all of these sensory overloads, this is what was causing him to melt down. And we actually did pay the therapist that diagnosed him, for therapy. And she was great and she worked with kids. That was her thing. She was I don't know if they're called pediatric, but she was an occupational therapist that worked with children. So this is I'm not no shade on her or anything like that, but we did not notice any improvement from that. And so that's what led us to look into possibly other things because we're like, it can't just be, the sensory stuff, because if it was, then this therapy should be helping at least to some extent. Right. And it wasn't. He was still melting down. And then there were other things like refusing to do tasks. And I just mean simple tasks like brush your teeth. Like, why is brushing your teeth a big deal? Being angry, that kind of stuff. And so, anyway, so we got him in with when he went to public school with me at my school. We got him in through speech. We got him the occupational therapy, and he still continued to escalate in his behaviors at school. So then we brought in more. We brought in the school counselor. And right around third grade is when we had him officially diagnosed with ADHD. And we did that. Again, the school does not diagnose. This was through an outside licensed marriage and family therapist. And we went that route because we did not at that time want him medicated. My older son either. We didn't want to go the medication route. I never thought that I would go the medication route because that's some heavy duty stuff with some serious side effects. And I never wanted to have to do that. So we went that route. And so then he was also receiving counseling services. I drove him for a year and it was far. I mean, not far, but, like a half an hour each way. It's like an hour of driving, once a week to go down and do this counseling session. And I would go in with him just because that's what the therapist recommended, that we both go in and do these sessions. And it was very frustrating. Again, no shade again on this therapist, but it was very frustrating because every session was the same. It was like deja vu. It was identical to the one before, and there was never any progress. It was like, here's the things that happened this week. Here's the meltdowns. Here's the task refusals. Here's the attitude. Here's the struggles for the week. Okay, let's remember the strategies, right? And then we would review the strategies, some of which, and we did try them, but some of them were like, and one that we tried a lot, he did like doing it, but I don't think it helped. But it might help somebody else. So I'm going to say it. It's when the kid is frustrated, you take ice, like ice, and you take it out into the street and you throw it. It's very satisfying because it smashes all over the street, but it doesn't break anything. And then it just melts, right? So you're not hurting anything, but you're able to get your frustration out. We did that every day, like before school, to try to get anything that was in there, any anxiety, frustration that was in there. Let's get it out before we go to school. So that was our routine. We would, we were walking to the car, we would go out in the street and he would have, 3 or 4 ice cubes. He would chuck them out the street. And that was one of the only strategies that he was willing to try. And I think it was because it was, that's fun. Sometimes I would throw one. It is fun and it is satisfying. So he did that, but it didn't seem to, the days that we did that, he could still go to school and melt down or have a bad day in other ways, like not do his work and whatever, have an attitude with the teacher. And then other ones were like screaming into a pillow, punching a pillow. I don't know. There was like 8 or 10 of them. And we were supposed to practice these. Well, he wouldn't do it. He was basically refusing anything that he was asked to do by any adult like that. He was just going to not do it. So it was like, remember, here's the strategies. And, we tried karate. He was in karate for a while until it was just such a struggle to get him to get ready for karate. And then there was one time when he was at karate after a few months and he had a major meltdown at karate. And fortunately, I guess in a way, fortunately, mostly I took him to karate, but this one time my husband took him. And at this point, I couldn't have lift. He was too big for me to lift, but my husband lifted him up and carried him and put him in the car and brought him home. But he was like melting down, like in the karate studio. And I think that was the last time we went to karate. We got him involved with the drum because an instrument is supposed to be good and hitting things is supposed to be good. So like an instrument and playing the drum, that's like a twofer. And actually he does still play the drum today. He's in the high school band and he does play the drum. But again, I never saw any symptom improvement from that, so he was involved in that activity. No, in fact, he and his band teacher had major struggles in elementary school. It wasn't until middle school that he did a little bit better in that regard. But yeah, he was like climbing on stuff in there and doing all this other stuff. And then that's the part where when you're a teacher and your kid is at your school, it's no fun because, oh, hi, Pixel. That's my cat, Pixel. Because they can just come right to you. Like, what other parent can you do that? Like the other teacher that's having a problem with your kid cannot just walk over to you, carrying your kid by the scruff, basically, not literally, but, and just tell, when and just go off. And so that is the part that was, difficult. It was also difficult because, my colleagues that I work with every day would see all of this behavior. And the principal, my boss, would sometimes have to deal with this behavior when it got very bad. And so, like I said, it was about 3rd grade. He was diagnosed with ADHD, and that was his worst year at school. And I really think it's because there was another student in the same class with very similar symptoms. So they would set each other off. Like nobody's business. So there were a couple of times during that year where it got so bad that the teacher evacuated the class, which is the policy and procedure. So when a kid is like throwing a chair or whatever, you don't remove the kid. He didn't destroy the classroom. I'm just saying what the policy is. He never destroyed a classroom. There have been other kids that have at my school, but he never did that. But he would throw things like, pick up a chair and throw it. So the procedure is, evacuate the students. So all the students, were evacuated twice and it never happened prior to that. And like in 2nd grade or prior, and it never happened after that. It was that 3rd grade year that was, very, very tough. And again, we're doing all this counseling, like we're doing all this stuff. Nothing is making a difference. And we just kind of lived like that until the end of middle school. And he's still like melting down, like Terrible 2 style meltdowns, but he's 12. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, is he ever going to outgrow this? When is he going to get some emotional control? He was given strategies, but if you tried to present him with those strategies to control those emotions, he would just get madder. He was irrational. He would basically say up is down, and down is up. And if he said up is down and you go, yep, you're right, up is totally down, then the very next sentence would be, nope, down is up. So you couldn't win. There was no winning. There was no, collaborating or coming to any kind of consensus. There was no negotiating and coming to some kind of agreement, because he was always arguing whatever you were saying. He was going to argue the opposite. And even if you agreed with him, then he was going to switch his argument around and argue the opposite. So it's very difficult, as you can imagine. There were many days uh, I'd go to work crying, come home crying, not knowing what to do, trying to help my kid, and that kind of stuff. And it was the end of middle school when I finally decided I think we need to try medication. And the reason is partly because my older son, he's older. He's like 4 years ahead of him in school, and he had tried finally medication, because in high school he was like failing his classes, and once you get to high school you can't fail your classes and get a diploma. And so we tried medication, and it did help. And he still occasionally takes that. He has it. He takes it if he needs it for his he's in college now. But it helped him, and he did graduate and that kind of stuff. And so we thought, I think we have to try this, because he's going to go to high school, and we don't want the same thing to happen where he ends up in summer school and all this stuff because he's failing his classes. And so that started a whole other situation, because because of his sensory issues, he has a very difficult time swallowing a pill. Like, he cannot do it. Because like I said, it's all 5 senses, and that includes textures in the mouth, right? So for a couple years, we were fighting with the insurance company over, we need something that isn't this pill. We need something that's a powder or a liquid. And I just kept getting these letters back saying, nope, if you want a powder or a liquid, you have to try all of these. And it was a list of like 9, I don't really know the number, but about 9 other pills. I'm like, these are all pills. And why on earth? I didn't even want to do medication anyways. Why would I put them on all these? And they're like, you have to try all of these. You could tell it's just some kind of form letter. Like, they're not even listening to me. Like, I'm telling you, he can't swallow the dang pill. We just need something that's not a pill. But I guess that's just their policy. You got to try all of these before we will approve, something else. So finally, our pediatrician found this one pill. It is a pill, but and because a lot of the pills you can't cut them because they have a time release. You can't cut them or make them smaller or do anything like that. But he found this one that's a capsule, and it's totally okay to open that capsule, dump the powder out into food or drink. And so we were able to do that. But I always would seek to get feedback from him, and he really did not like the way it made him feel. He was like, I'll be honest, it worked as advertised. Like, I sat still, but he felt trapped in his own body. Like, he still wanted to move, but he couldn't. He just didn't feel right. He didn't feel like himself. And I was like, okay, that's done. So after all of that, although it's helped my older son to one extent or another, my younger son, he really just did not, and we didn't keep trying after that, because same thing like that was really the only one that we could find. And our insurance company wasn't going to approve anything else, and, whatever. So the medication experiment was done. And so I just thought, when I went carnivore and my own health improved so much, and my mental health improved, and I was already starting to see, not so much talking about ADHD, but talking about, there might be some people talking about it now. I'm just saying the videos that I saw were about other mental conditions like bipolar, schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, like serious mental disorders, being put in remission with a ketogenic diet. I just thought, well, this is not going to hurt him. And honestly, he was eating standard American, and part of that was because of his texture issues. Really, at the point when he was trying to wean onto food, it was like whatever I could get in his belly, I was okay with, because most things he would throw up because of the texture. So yeah, he was eating a lot of macaroni and cheese, frozen pizzas, that type of food, grilled cheese sandwiches, but hardly any meat. The only meat was like if it was pepperoni on a pizza, which he wouldn't eat pepperoni pizza for a long time. It started out because of the texture. It was just cheese pizza for a long time. Quesadillas with just the tortilla and cheese, like no chicken. Chicken nuggets, that would be like another that had some meat in it. Bananas. Anything without too much texture to it. And we worked up from like bananas and vanilla yogurt to like mac and cheese, to like, we kind of worked up and got him to that point where he was eating the things I just listed. And so I thought, well, obviously that's a terrible diet. And so even if it doesn't help his ADHD, it's for sure going to be healthier. But by that time, by February of this year, 2024, he's 15. Like, you got to have buy-in. You got a 15-year-old kid. You can't just be like, eat this. Because when they're out of the house, they're just going to eat what they want. They're going to eat the pizza with their friends. He could go to the school cafeteria twice a day and get a free meal that doesn't even require me to put money on an account. And that food is absolutely terrible. So, he did agree to try it. He started at the February 1st. We started him up. We started with some substitution type of foods, which I am totally okay with and would totally love to walk anybody through who is interested in starting their kid on something like this. I can totally tell you what I did. I did also make some videos on my channel, but like the carnivore pancakes made with the protein powder and the cream cheese. We made these pizza pockets. I made homemade chicken nuggets with ground chicken. Eventually we tried like the carnivore with the chicken crust pizza, like that. So we did that first. It was still almost no actual meat. But let's just get into this. Let's just get into this ketogenic state here. And at first I wasn't even set on him being carnivore. I just thought, let's do like a high fat, we'll call it ketovore, I don't know, and just try to get some ketones going and see if it helps. And, within the first week, he just like started cleaning his room, which was super weird because he had never cleaned his room ever. We used to fight over that until we fought so many battles. I decided I wasn't going to fight that one. And his room looked like a tornado hit it. And I just didn't care as long as it stayed on his side of the door, whatever. But yeah, he just started bringing bags of trash out of his room, like bag after bag after bag. About the fifth bag, I was like, what are you doing? He said, I'm just cleaning my room. Like, it's just normal, right? Like, this is just something he does. And I'm like, okay, awesome. And I said, just make sure all that trash gets put outside, because it was getting kind of late. Well, late for me. And then I went to bed, and the next morning, the trash was gone. Like Adrian, I only had to tell him one time. You know how many times I would have had to tell him? Like 12 times, and he probably would have got mad and not done it. But yeah, one time, and all that trash made it, outside. And I asked him how many bags of trash he took. I don't remember now, but like 16 kitchen-sized bags of trash came out of there. And he did a bunch of work towards organizing the stuff that was left. And then over the next several weeks too, he like completed the job. And the reason I like to highlight that is not because I care about the clean room. I don't care. I had to stop caring about that a long time ago. It's because he had the cognitive function to look at that task, know that it needed to be done, tell himself to do it, agree with himself. Yep, I'm going to do it. Like, get motivated, organize how to do it in his head, and then start doing it and like actually throw stuff away. This needs to be thrown away. This I want to keep. And then organizing stuff, putting it away in its appropriate places. Those were all things he could not do. When I would try to get him to clean his room, I would have to sit in there and be like, pick up the Legos. And he would refuse to pick up the Legos. So I would start, look, these are the Legos. Your Legos are going to go in here. And I'd be like, okay, I did one. Now you do one. No. So mom ended up doing it. But, that was advice from the counselor. Don't say clean his room. He has ADHD. He can't clean his room. It's too big. It's too many things. He can't do it. He has to focus on one thing at a time. Well, we tried that. He had never been able to do that before. So I just thought, man, if he could do this with his room, hopefully this skill is going to transfer to, other parts of his life, like hopefully school, right? And other things like that. I don't know if you want to dig into that anymore. I've already talked a long time about it, but yeah, so he's benefited greatly. He's doing awesome. And he's still, what are we now? So end of September, and he's still, eating the proper human diet and doing awesome.
I think it's a story that just can't be told enough. Like you said, a problem challenge is becoming more and more common. And so for people to just get to hear that hope that maybe it could get a little better. We already tried everything. We tried all the things. And just as I hear your struggle, I feel that struggle right now with one of my kids. And everybody's looking at you like you're just a horrible parent, and you're like, I'm literally doing everything I possibly can for this child. I love this child. I want this child to be a good, productive human being, and you just can't get through to them. So I love that hope that they can feel better. We can reduce some symptoms. We can hopefully reduce some of that brain inflammation, toxins in our food. And of course, that's the
Yes.
food that they want. That's the food they crave is the food
Yes.
that's actually making it worse. So do you make his school lunches? Because the school lunch program, like you were saying in a different interview, just seems not helpful in this situation.
Yeah, he was up to this point, he was because it was free and, I wasn't thinking so much about his diet. He would if he liked what was there for breakfast, he would get it if he lunch and at school. And yeah, we stopped doing that. So for breakfast now, I will make him eggs and sausage with some butter in there and then he does do like whole milk, so a little bit of whole milk. And then for lunch, I mean, he's kind of a repetitive kind of kid. It's not, people keep asking me to do videos, and I'm like, it's literally the same thing. But it's like he really likes the grass-fed and finished Teton sausages. You can get them at Costco. I get mine at Sprouts. And then just a few spices. They're very clean. So he'll have one of those. He'll have a little bit of pepperoni and some Colby Jack cheese, like cut up into blocks, and I'll just put that into a little baggie and send it with him. And then what's really amazing to me, as I talked about my own benefits being like the cravings have stopped for me, I can tell you that those substitution foods are a lot less. He'll still do the little pizza pockets. That's maybe one of them that is still left a couple times a week. But man, the boy loves picanha. He takes after his mom. I know he likes chuck roast. He likes chicken thighs. Those are probably, oh, and pork shoulder. So those are probably his four favorites. And we'll just put those on repeat. And those are all things I can cook ahead of time. And then he'll just go and get the leftovers and heat those up. And so that's how he's eating. He says that he doesn't feel weird at all at school. Like, I'm like, do your friends think you're weird? He's like, I don't care. And they don't care. And nobody's like, that's what they're eating. This is what I'm eating. There's been a few social occasions and I've sent food with him because I asked if he wanted me to. And he said yes. But like they had pizza and he just ate the little, sausage and cheese that I sent along with him. And because I asked later and I never tell him like, when you go over there, don't eat that pizza. I never tell him that. I just go have fun with your friends and
Because he'll do
here's
the
your food.
opposite.
Yeah, he'll probably do the opposite, but also I want him to feel agency, right? I don't want him to feel like mom is forcing him. And there's only been one time and it was within that first week where he had something that was off plan and I was shocked that he even told me, "Well, I don't think he feels any shame about it." Like we would maybe feel shame if we went off the wagon and ate something. He doesn't, I don't think. But one of his teachers gives candy for a reward. It was like a sucker. And so he had gotten an answer right and she gave him this sucker. And he's just used to doing that. Like he's only in the first week of changing his diet, right? So he's like, "Mom, I had an oops today." So he tells me that he got this sucker and he just without even thinking, just pulled the wrapper off and popped it in his mouth. And then he went, "I'm not supposed to be having this." And he threw it in the trash. Like he didn't even finish it. My sugar addicted brain for sure would have finished it and maybe would have eaten three more for good measure. But yeah, he threw it away like, "Oh yeah, whoops," and just threw it away and has
That's
really had no
amazing.
problem. The other thing I noticed, and I kind of want to do a separate video on this because I heard Bart K talking about this. Stop when you're full. Even if there's two bites on the plate, stop when you're full. I don't do that. If there's two bites on the plate, I'm just going to eat them because I was taught clean your plate, right? Like, I think that
Mhm.
may be why, like, I had to clean my plate. I don't know. I'm going to work on that for myself. But sometimes I'll notice, like, when I make him his eggs and sausage, there'll be two bites in the bottom of the bowl. He'll just leave it there. I think that's awesome. I'm like, I need to be better with that.
Another thing of hope that I really want to share with people that's part of your story, that's kind of part of your son's story, just for that 1 second, is that this doesn't have to be perfect to reap the benefits. One of the things that you kept in, some people would call it a bridge, was diet soda. Do you want to tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about that? Because I
Yeah.
have friends who are considering this, but they're like, oh, I just can't imagine giving up this. And in
Mm.
some cases, would you say that that is okay as long as you are making progress? Or what advice do you have? And tell us your experience with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first I would say you're absolutely right. Things like diet soda, they'll even like Dr. Rob Sivas talks about diet soda can be a bridge drink for people, when they're trying to switch over. And if you give up everything that you absolutely love, like people probably aren't going to do that, And when I was keto, I didn't really have a reason like to give it up. That can be part of like I know lots of people that are keto and they drink diet soda. Like it can be part of that. But also I know that it's something that I have been drinking for a very long time. I started when I was a teenager because I thought I was getting fat back then, and in my house we had regular soda because I have two younger brothers. We had regular soda for the kids, but then my mom would buy him Diet Coke. And so I thought, well, I'm just gonna not drink the Pepsi or whatever we had, and I'm just gonna drink my dad's Diet Coke. And I switched to that. And similar to the coffee, I would just drink diet whatever, or Pepsi Zero or Coke Zero, whatever. Like, I mean, like all day long, like 4 or 5 a day. In addition to I'd have like my morning coffee and then I would like go the rest of the day by drinking the soda. And even after like the Keurig came out, it was when the Keurig came out that I started drinking coffee like all day because it just made it so easy. I didn't have to brew a pot and like clean the coffee maker and all of that. But I was still drinking quite a bit of diet soda too. It was just like so much caffeine because I felt so exhausted. And so when I went carnivore, I did reduce it because you look at those ingredients and it's chemicals. It's all chemicals. But I didn't totally give it up. I was drinking maybe one a day, which might sound like a lot to some people, but remember, I was drinking 4 or 5 a day, right? So one a day, like either probably with my meal, probably with my dinner, because I come home from teaching. It's like, okay, wow, my teaching day is done. I'm going to sit on the couch. I'm going to enjoy this fill in the blank ribeye and a diet whatever, right? Because
Picanha.
my picanha, and then my diet soda with it, because that was like my, right? Like at the end of the day, like just my happy place to come home, have my dinner. I like to eat early. Yeah, I like to eat early. So I'd have my plate of meat, yeah, usually ribeye or picanha, and then my diet soda. But, more and more people, and it's kind of hard too because people kind of badmouth it or trash talk it or say like they're kind of rude about it. And, some people it just takes more time. And but I was feeling worse and worse about, first of all, what am I putting in my body? Like the more carnivore I got and the longer I was carnivore, the more I learned about other ways. Like I started grounding and I started trying to go for more walks and getting sun and like all these things. Right. So it's like, I know this is bad for me, but I just couldn't give it up. Like I was still holding on to it. Right. Until one day it was just like, if I just didn't buy any more Coke Zero, I would be totally fine. Like that thought just popped into my brain out of nowhere. And I was like, cool. So next time I do grocery shopping, I'm just not going to buy any more. So I did finish what I had, but I knew it like gave me a countdown. I knew like, okay, when I get to this last one, that's it. And it's been about I don't know. I didn't put in my calendar. I didn't learn a lesson. I didn't put my calendar when I started carnivore either because I didn't even know I was starting it and I didn't learn a lesson. I didn't put it in my calendar. But it's been about 6 weeks or so and I haven't had a diet soda. The hardest times are when I go to like a restaurant, like that little voice, that little addiction voice is just like, but you never at a restaurant, just order a Diet Coke. But I haven't done it. I just order water. I haven't bought any more. I haven't had any. There are still times when I want one, but it's less and less. And I can just tell it to go away. And after a few minutes, it does. So yeah, I'm super happy to have given it up. I still have my coffee, but I'm down to one caffeinated coffee, just one in the morning. And then I just drink decaf. And today I think I had my one caffeinated cup of coffee and then 1 cup of decaf, and I haven't had any more. So I have a feeling coffee is going to be probably next. And then once I'm over that, we'll see if I feel better without it or whatever. But I'm more happy to give up the diet soda. I don't necessarily know if coffee's necessary for everyone to give up, but if you're still drinking diet soda, don't feel like you have to give it up right away. Like I still have my coffee, I kept my diet soda, and I still had all those benefits that I got. Not to say that there aren't maybe more on the other side of giving up these last couple of things, but I got a lot of benefits even keeping that stuff in.
That's amazing. So did you still have the satiation and the fullness of the carnivore diet even with that little bit of sweetener?
Yeah, sweetener does not seem to bother me, and I think it's maybe because I've been doing them for so long, like, the stevia and I don't even know what they're all called, but the different, like at first it was like Splenda, way back in the day, not knowing about dextrose and all that kind of stuff, but I've done alternate sweeteners ever since, like I said, when I switched to diet soda, I switched to all of those other, like I never had sugar. just because I thought the calories, not for any other reason. They don't seem to mess with my satiety or anything like that. I strictly gave it up for two reasons, which I don't think I said the other one, but one is it's just a list of chemicals that I just don't want in my body, not because I couldn't control my eating when I was having it. And two is because I don't want to give my money to big food. So I'm working on more
Mm.
and more ways to not give my money to big food. Like I don't want to give my money to fill in the blank soda company. I don't want to do that because I
Mm.
don't think those things are good for people.
That's amazing. Okay, so you've had social anxiety type of relief. You've
Mhm.
had fullness, so that binge and restrict cycle is a lot better, or is it all
Mhm.
gone?
It's all gone. I usually eat twice a day. That's generally what I find is good for me. If I eat once a day, I'm usually white knuckling. There was a time where I had some OMAD days for several like 2 couple weeks in a row and I felt fine. So as long as I feel fine, I'm okay to do it. But I'm not I've just decided like I'm not going to white knuckle it because it just reminds me like echoes me back, to that place where I was and I just don't want to go there. I'm just going to eat when I feel hungry. Every
And your
human being should be able to do that.
and your son is having these remarkable improvements in his behavior and his life. And
Yes.
am I missing anything on the improvements in your life?
So I had some pretty severe cystic acne that would pop up, and I'm not going to say that my skin is totally clear. It's actually broken out recently, I think, because of some stress. Work has been extremely stressful, extremely stressful. We don't need to get into it, but it's been very stressful. I think that could be contributing to it. And I've had one or two other breakouts, but like we're talking in a whole year where I would get those breakouts consistently, like monthly. So for sure that my energy's gotten better. So I have I wake up in the morning feeling energy, not just dreading my day. And then I had some joint pain in my right knee and in my right hand. I think my right hand because I'm right-handed and teachers, we write a lot and the report cards used to be in quadruplicate and you'd have to push really hard before they got, digitized and all of that. And the right knee, I think from sports in my past and from any working out I've done like squats and stuff. But my now I can do my sprints and do squats and my knee doesn't tell me anything. It just acts like a knee. It doesn't tell me that I don't like this. My ankles used to swell every single day. By the end of the day, my ankles would be all swollen. And I'm not going to say that they never swell if I'm sitting for too long or anything like that, but a lot of times at the end of a full day of teaching, I go and sit down and look at my ankles and there's no swelling there. So that's improved. I think that pretty much covers it, but for me that's a lot of benefits, Adrian.
That is amazing. So do you ever think, I mean, we can't tell the future, but do you think this is kind of the way you'd like to eat forever, or do you see yourself reintroducing, or the benefits just too sweet?
So, good question. I do not see myself reintroducing things. I will say that occasionally, even still from time to time, I will have some pickle chips with my burger. And even more occasionally, I will have a couple avocado slices. Usually it's with a burger, like my burger patties. I don't even struggle with cheese anymore. Like I could take it or leave it. It's pretty crazy because I used to crave that. But as far as other things, like if I think about eating a pickle, like it doesn't gross me out. Or if I think about eating a little piece of avocado, it doesn't gross me out. If I think about eating lettuce, Adrian, I'm like, ew.
Yeah,
Or
the
like
attraction's gone.
broccoli. Yeah. So, I mean, if it did anything and fruit just seems like, why would I want, it just seems like so sickeningly sweet. Even bear, I'm like, crazy. No. It just, there's no appeal at all for those things. I don't miss them. So I don't see myself going back. I really truly, I mean, I've always loved ribeye and things like that. Like when we would get ribeye at the store way before this way of eating, I would definitely take the bigger one. Like my husband would get the smaller one, I would take the bigger one. So I've always been loved meat. But yeah, it doesn't appeal to me at all. And the benefits are sweet. And I know for sure it was taking out the rest of the vegetables. That's when my mental clarity and all of that came online. So why would I want to put those back? They don't even sound good. Like they're not even appealing. And now that I know what I know about oxalates and all that stuff, the anti-nutrients yeah, there's no appeal there. I don't see myself eating any of that stuff again.
I feel the same way. This summer I kind of free ate and I didn't track and I gained some weight. But it didn't I just stuck with meat still. I just stuck with meat and
Mhm.
dairy and it was still exactly what I always eat. I love the way that we eat. This is so different than any other way of eating I've ever tried because the other ones always left me hungry. They always left me with
Mm,
cravings. And this is like you get to be full. Like it's so nice to say I'm a human and I deserve to be full. If you have any
100%.
advice for anybody considering this way of eating, what would it be?
So I would definitely say my favorite thing when I first got started, and I don't do it as much now. I do it still some though, but find a small YouTube channel. I mean, the big channels are great too. Like their videos are awesome because they're very professionally done, right? And they have great content. I'm not saying that they don't. But when the bigger channels are live, the chat is just like flying through and you could say hi and like maybe nobody even notices you're there. And it's not because they're mean, it's just because there's so many people in there. But if you find a smaller YouTube channel that does live streams, there are so many. And that's where I like almost all the people that I met that I consider myself to be friends with now is because I jumped in on those live streams and just said hi. And then everybody in there was like, "Oh, hi," like whatever. And then you just chat. And then the next live stream, you see those same people. And there might be, 20, 25 people because it's a small channel and a lot of time you'll see those familiar faces. And even though they have, screen names, you'll start to know their actual names. You'll get to know them. And it just makes it like you have some support. I would say now, I've got my mom in my life. She's keto. I've got my teacher bestie. She's keto. My son is basically carnivore. And my husband is now, low carb. So I do have some people around me. But when I first started, I sure didn't. And I think you start to feel lonely, you start to feel like you're an alien, like you're the
Yes.
only one, and if you say anything to anyone, they're like, "Wait, what?" Like they don't understand it, and of course, they haven't watched all the Dr. Berry videos, and so they don't really know why you're doing it, and of course, they believe all of the propaganda, food pyramid, my plate, whatever, and so they think you're gonna die any second of whatever, fill in the blank, heart attack or whatever. And so they don't understand, but you get into these live streams like that and you will start to make friends. The carnivore community I have found to be mostly 99%, awesome. And,
Mhm.
you know, eh, you just find people, you get to know them, and it's the best support. You feel like you have a little community that you're now a part of. And so you don't, at least in that part of your life, you're not just a strange person everywhere you go all the time, right? Because those people understand you.
I
That's what I
love
would
that.
recommend.
I
Mhm.
love that what you just gave is absolutely free. There's nothing to sell here. Just eat meat, preferably from a local butcher, and go find a community. So many of us will respond to all of our comments because we are so excited to share.
Yes.
We want other people to feel as good as we do. So I would like to share your channel. Okay, so first I'm going to show your YouTube channel here. I love your recipes. Because of you, I got the Ninja Creamy. I love your cooking videos. I mean, truly,
Thank
you
you.
got me into the Ninja Creamy. And I love the pizza pocket thing that you made for your son. So there's some great ideas on here. If you have a kid that you want to eat more meat, if you want to switch them, and I love, of course, all the picanha. There's great recipes on here. You also have an amazing live section. You go live quite often with a whole bunch of different carnivores, and I love
Mhm.
that. And then I want to share. So please, everybody, go out to at Meeting Wellness and subscribe because I'm sure 10 of you that follow me don't follow her yet, but you should now. And then the other thing that you do is this amazing show called Lioness Lifestyle Live.
Woohoo!
You have 2
Roar.
amazing co-hosts.
Yes,
So
I do.
everybody could go out there to our brand new channel. We actually were streaming to our own channels. Now we stream to one channel that we share, and we have the most amazing guests. This week we have Dr. Anthony Chafee. We've had them all. We've had ketogenic woman, right?
Yeah.
Was that
Oh,
him?
yeah.
We've had Danny Conway. We've had just so many, and we are slowly uploading our previous interviews here. So definitely go check that out. And then also, of course, go to Cristie's Instagram so you can follow her there and keep up with all the latest and greatest news and stories. And am I missing anything?
No, I think that's it. I'm also on Facebook at Meeting Wellness if anybody wants to go there. I don't do a ton of Instagram or Facebook, but I am there. Mostly on YouTube, though, on my channel and the Linus Lifestyle channel.
What I love about your channel is that I can get a lot of content. You are a very regular poster and a liver, and I feel like I can get a lot from you. So I love that. And I love how you share your heart with what's going on in your life too. Because it's like a reality TV show. And so I love one-off stories. I love N equals 1, which we can really get from you. So, well,
Awesome.
Cristie, thank you so much for coming on my channel. You've inspired me in more ways than one. My whole family's inspired. So, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was so fun. It flew by so quick because, like you said at the beginning, we're friends in real life too. So this was really great. Thanks for inviting
Oh,
me.
thank you for reminding me that I wanted to show. Cristie and I have met in real life.
Oh, there we are.
And if you have not attended a meetup, there are big ones like Hack Your Health next year in Tampa in November. And then there's small local ones. And if there's nothing in your area, why don't you just throw one out there? People will definitely come. We are just the friendliest, happiest people because we eat meat and our brains are not inflamed.
That's it. Carnivore's in.
Right.
It's real.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. Goodbye.